And I think in my career, maybe I was 35, 40 when I finally figured it out that if you want to be successful, surround yourself with people that are better than you are. And that's a tough one. Owners can say that all day and all night, you know. But the truth is, if you want to be successful, don't go out and hire a technician. Hire the best technician, even if it takes more time. Don't go out and have a manager that listens to what you say and is a yes person. Go out and find somebody that can manage better than you.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and Taffy Puller Todd Liles, a coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence, are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
All right, listeners, welcome to another great episode of the $100 Million Mindset. Today, I am happy to be doing this with my partner, Alan O'Neill, because I have an old partner here with us as a guest. It's Lance Sinclair, and Lance and I go way back. We both worked in the early days of Clockwork Home Services before they separated and became Certain Path and became Authority Brands. And Lance and I have a deep, long friendship, and he's been a friend of mine through all these things. And I said, hey, Lance, will you come on now that you're officially retired? And can we talk about our history? And can we talk about what you were so good at, which is the fundamentals? So he's here for that. But before I introduce Lance, I want to give a moment to say hello, Alan. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
Always great to be here, Todd. Well, today we're with Lance Sinclair. Lance spent decades in the home service franchise world, and he eventually became president over the trade brands inside Authority Brands, including 1 Hour, Mr. Sparky, and Benjamin Franklin Plumbing. He's seen what works at branch level and what breaks when you try to scale it. Lance has lived through the real stuff. Early franchise days, ownership changes, hard lessons, and the discipline it takes to lead at scale. This isn't a brand story, it's a leadership story. And it's for anyone who wants to build a company that doesn't fall apart when you're not in the room. Lance, you've worn a lot of hats: sales training, operations, leadership, and you've seen what happens when companies chase the next thing instead of building fundamentals. Today isn't about hype, it's about what actually works. So let's start at the beginning. Give us the rapid fire history, Lance. How did you get started in the trades and the franchise world?
Well, that's a great question because it wasn't planned. It wasn't something I aspired to. I just kind of, I think as many of us, kind of fell into it. It all started way back, frankly, when I worked for Service Master back in 1998. Some of your listeners may not have been born back then, but I worked for a company that they acquired called Rescue Rooter, and that was kind of my introduction to the trades. That later became, of course, part of ARS. In 2003, going way back, I got hired by Success Group International, commonly referred to as SGI. And I was actually a franchise business consultant was my first role. That lasted about 30 days, if you can believe it. I was an FBC for plumbing. And then they took me out of that and offered me a position, same company, same locations, SGI, and I was in sales, recruiting new members. So I was traveling around the country 3 out of 4 weeks, doing what we called back then success days, that I think has been imitated by many organizations. That was a lot of fun. And then they put me in charge of sales. That lasted for about maybe 3 months, 4 months. And then I got fired, which was a shock to me because we were doing so well. But if you understood the person I worked for, that's not too unusual. And I was told to go downtown and speak with this guy named Todd Liles, who I had met before. You know, I knew who he was. He was running very successfully Success Academy. And he offered me a position as a trainer. Of course, I accepted. That was around 2005, I believe. So that's like 20 years ago. Worked as a trainer, absolutely loved it. Learned so much about the business. Worked with an incredible group of people. Um, Todd, I was significantly older than Todd, and he always treated me with dignity and respect. And I think that was the foundation of us getting along so well. In 2007, I got the opportunity to work exclusively with a new group called Franchise. And as a result of that, I moved from St. Louis, where I was currently living, to beautiful Sarasota, Florida. Later became manager of Success Academy. And Todd, you'll love this. I had one employee, one person that reported to me. But because of that, I could have the title of manager.
Nice.
Nothing I
Nice.
really aspired to. I love training, but I stuck with it. Let's fast forward to 2016. I became vice president of learning for the company. And then in 2019, uh, went to the third ownership group called Authority Brands and was offered a position in operations, which I decided not to take. I said no. And Todd, I don't know if I told you this story, but I called my kids that night and told them that I didn't accept the position. I was just going to stay in training because it was easy. I was familiar with it. I think I was pretty good at it. And my kids yelled at me. They yelled. I couldn't believe it. Two separate phone calls, the same reaction. And what they said was, Dad, you always taught us to take risks. You always taught us to, be uncomfortable and learn new things. And here you're taking the easy way out. I tell you what, I felt guilty. I thought about it that night, walked into Mark Dawson's office the next morning, who was assigned the position of running the franchises, and asked him if I could accept the job. And I'll never forget, he just smiled and said yes. I think he knew I would change my mind. So became vice president of operations in 2022, became chief operating officer. That was kind of a milestone to have that C-suite kind of name.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2023, accepted the position as president of the franchises. And as your listeners may or may not know, I retired actually December 31st, 2025. So that's a brief listing of the history that I've had. And it's been, I've been in the trades now, 25 plus years,
Yeah.
and have never looked back. Absolutely loved it. Mainly
So,
because
Alan,
of people.
I want to tell you a story about the actual first time that I met Lance, and I've told Lance this story. So, all right, so you got to imagine, listeners, I'm young, I'm in my 20s, and Emily was, I'm not sure what Emily's title was, but I think she was probably the operation officer of SGI. She basically did all the things that Terry told her to do, and she was always attempting to put a little fun in, which was interesting because I'm not sure Emily was fun, but she tried to be fun, right? She was trying.
Mhm.
She was trying. So she organized a scavenger hunt across St. Louis, not just like in Clayton, but across St. Louis. And it was actually amazing, right? So there was a lot of new people that were there that weren't from St. Louis and some that were. So the St. Louis people got together and they talked about what high school they went to. St. Louis people that are listening understand that. And then they told everybody else, like, okay, we know where we're going, right? So we go all over the place. We go to the mall, we go to the arch, we're collecting clues. And the very last place that we end up is in this beautiful park, right? And I think Lance was like the last clue, and he was out in the middle of a lake in a paddle boat, had his shirt off, and I'm telling you, this dude was tan. He was ripped, and I'm not exaggerating, Alan. He was ripped, like he had abs for days, and everybody was like, A, who is this guy? B, how is he so ripped and shredded? And C, what is he doing in a paddle boat? And are we supposed to swim out there to get our clue? Do you remember that,
Amazing.
Lance?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. That goes way, way back. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was. You're right. She tried to be fun. I don't know that that was really in her soul, but that was a blast. That was a blast.
It really wasn't, but she attempted. So you knew when she was flustered. God bless Emily. Who knows where she's at today? But she would go red from here to here,
Wow.
and her direct the guy that she reported to, they shared that in common.
Yes, they did.
Let's jump into the first segment if that's all right. All right.
Absolutely.
So, Lance, thank you for the update here. Let's talk about from the field to training and how that path got started, which you gave us a little bit of. We'll just go a little bit deeper here. You were at Rescue Rooter, and then you ended up moving to Memphis, and all of a sudden you were inside of a growing franchise world. Walk us briefly through what was happening in that chapter of your life.
Well, that was okay. You're going way back to Service Master,
Mm-hmm.
and it was it was not really planned. Um, I got a phone call to join the group, move to Memphis. I was in charge of a wide variety of things: safety, training, and actually, my first 6 months I spent taking Rescue Rooter, which was located in San Diego, and moving it to Memphis. Not real popular with the people from California, I can tell you that. I think out of the entire group, I think we got two people to move.
Wow.
Um, so that was a bit of a challenge. But that was when I first started getting exposed to the trades. And it fascinated me. And I tell you what attracted me and which kept me in the trades for so long is not the business model itself, really the people. I have such a respect and admiration for these individuals, most of which maybe got the business from their dad or started it from the ground up and built what I think makes, and I don't want to get too political here or corny here, but they're really the backbone of America. I mean, they're really the salt of the earth. Um, People with really good intentions trying to create a successful business without maybe some of the advantages of other people who might have, strong financial background or education. These people were doing it with their hands. They were doing it with their minds. Uh, and I just love the tradespeople. I made so many good friends that are tradespeople, and they're really what makes this country great.
Mm-hmm.
Franchising allows people to do that. I'm not suggesting everybody be a franchise. Believe me, it's not for everyone. Uh, but when you look at our space, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, um, man, I tell you, these people, I just admire them so much for what they accomplish.
Absolutely.
I think, Lance, it's one of the things I say to people from outside the trades most is one of the really cool things about our trade is it doesn't matter whether you go to Indianapolis, Florida, California, it doesn't matter where you go. The people are the salt of the earth. Like
Yep.
there's no AHs, right? I mean, you just don't. I suppose it's not fair to say there's none, but there's very few. Most of the people are salt of the earth, great people. So it's a wonderful business to be in, I think. So, Lance, you talked about the old success days and selling systems in the SGI era. What was the real value you were trying to create for owners?
Well, I think, as I look back on this industry, uh, so many contractors need help in building scale. And what I mean by that is, look, they've got the passion, right? They've got the desire to execute. Most of them have been educated, as we commonly call it in the trade, the school of hard knocks.
Yep.
Um, the reality is that many, many people get stuck in that 1 to 1.5 range million. And they're doing well. Maybe they're making more money they ever did before. Maybe they're satisfied, but they seem to get stuck there. And look, I've had the opportunity to work with $160 million franchises and $1 million franchises. Uh, but one of the things I noticed is that in the very beginning, you have to be a very strong manager at that 1 to 1.5 level. The challenge is not generating revenue or marketing. The challenge is not those kind of things that would come to mind. The challenge is for that owner operator to move from management to leadership, because it's
Mhm.
really tough to do both,
Right.
especially in the beginning when you're trying to put in procedures and policies and systems in place. And I think you know it. I went through that same journey myself. When you think about it, I mean, back at the rescue days and ARS days, and even into SGI, I was managing things. And management, if you recall, who wrote that book? Was it Bennis that wrote the book on leadership, where he states most companies are overmanaged and underled, unquote. I always like that quote. And, I was in a management position, and I think I did pretty well. But management is making sure the numbers are reported, making sure the trucks are loaded. Management is all about checking boxes, policy and procedure. As I got into SGI and then especially into franchise, I found myself needing to be a better leader and not just a manager. And so I can empathize with these people at that 1.5 level. Now, Todd, you work with people in a wide variety of range, but I know that a lot of your clients probably are in that group I'm calling, where they grow to a certain level, they're making some money, they own their own business, and then they just get stagnant. They don't
Yep.
move the needle, you know? And a lot of that, we can blame it on systems. Of course we can. And there's some truth to that. But in my perspective, the reason people get stuck is because they have to move from a manager to a leader. And that's tough, easier said than done.
I think, Lance, one of the powerful things that groups like Plumber Success International for us, ESI, RSI, whatever it might be, and now today groups like Service Excellence, they teach these owners what's possible, right? Because you get very blinkered on your own, and for me, when I started Abacus and I start going to the summits, as they were called at the time, I was looking at guys that were, we were maybe 1 million or 2 million. I was looking at guys that were 5 million, 10 million, and I'm going, that guy's really no better than me. He just he's a little further down the road. So it's very possible that I can continue to grow if I just implement the fundamentals. And what was really interesting, and I'm sure both yourself and Todd can really resonate with this, was the biggest disease in small business in America is FTI, failure to implement.
Absolutely.
Because you've been told what to do from the stage if you're part of these groups, but you would go back a year later and you'd talk to guys that hadn't implemented it for some reason or another. So I think, gaining the knowledge is number one, but the hard part is actually not being afraid to implement it. And fear, everybody will quit if I do that. And, it's just not true. And so I think the message to the listeners has to be, there's a ton of help out there, whether it's Service Excellence or one of the groups. Go get the help. It's well worth the investment, in my opinion, because I'm sure you've seen, Lance, in your career, guys that started with the groups or with a franchise, and they've grown amazing businesses, and in many cases exited for life-changing money, so it's all there.
Yeah, one of the things that I want to go back and revisit on, Lance, because my memory is slightly different, and maybe it's slightly different because maybe I had a slightly different story told to me, perhaps. I don't recall, or maybe it's just that it's 20-something years. But I want to revisit the story when you said, hey, you called me up and after you got fired and said, do you have an opportunity here? And I'm going to tell you why it's slightly different in my memory, and then it's going to come around to a character trait of yours that I really admire. I've always admired this about you. When Denise Swafford had left and left that vacancy there, I can remember assembling a vision for what Success Academy was going to be. and it was like a job interview. Now, in my memory, and I could be wrong, I think that you were up for the position, I was up for the position, and another person that I can't recall. So when I got the position, and it could have been that it was just told to me that it was between you and I was under the understanding that it was between you and that it wasn't guaranteed to be mine. Is that not the way you recall it? Or, and I'm just curious if I know that I was told that, but maybe there's something I didn't understand as well.
Well, at the time, I was not told that. At the time, I was not aware of that opportunity. It wasn't until after the fact that I was told. I remember once in a casual conversation with Terry that you were a candidate for that position, which kind of confused me because why did you fire me from sales? You know, uh, but you have to understand, and the reality is that's just kind of how things worked back then. Um, but yeah, I remember that, and I wasn't aspiring for that position. Frankly, I had two boys. I'm a single parent. I'm living in St. Louis. My kids are teenagers. There's a challenge in itself, and frankly, I needed a job, and the Success Academy opportunity was just perfect for me. I mean, it really was. And I didn't even know it at the time. But it fit my personality, my desire to bring value to the owners, and to be able to do that upfront and personal. I mean, that's huge. It's one thing
Hmm.
to be the president of a company and see it grow from, gosh, when I got it, it was about 535 million. We grew last year to $1 billion. That's tremendous. But to be able to be in front of people in their locations and to help them become better people. Oh, and by the way, better technicians, electricians, and plumbers uh, was just a dream come true for me. I mean, what an opportunity, what an opportunity. And Todd, it wasn't just about selling systems. I mean, it was about operations, it was about sales and marketing, it was about management, it was about financials. Tremendous opportunity for me.
Well, and this is the character trait. That's part of the character trait, and I'm going to wrap up this character trait with a little short story. Uh, and Lance, I hope you'll forgive me if I tell this story, but I think I think it's just a great representation as to who you are. Like, I can remember being in a class, and I'm in there, and it's one that I taught many times, and a student had asked Lance a question, and you could tell Lance didn't exactly know what the exact answer was, so he did his best to answer it, and he went into a little bit of his Scottish behavior where he's like, he's just going to keep talking until he figures it out.
Yep, yep.
And at the break, I had said to Lance, and what I believe was very respectful. I said, "Hey, in a scenario like that, it might be better just to go. I'm not sure. Let me get the answer." And you were like, "Oh, perfect." And when an opportunity like that came up again, that's what he said. And I was terrified because here's this guy that we were in the same position running together in my brain. I didn't know that you didn't know that. I thought it's like, oh, okay, it's between me and you. And I go, he's older than me, and I got a lot of respect for him, but I have this moment that I want to share with him. And this goes to Lance's character trait that I've always admired. He's always been coachable, and he's never been quick to offense. And I can tell you, there's not many people
That's true.
that would have taken, that little piece of humble advice from a 20-something-year-old kid. Most people, because like the guy that I replaced after Denise that hired me, I mean, he would have ceremoniously kicked me in the balls if I told him anything like that. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
that's not you. And I hope that story is okay that I shared. But as I look at your career now that you're retired, your whole career has really been sort of the humble servant, the coachable person, the person that's here to do a good job and not put their ego first. And I really mean that. I admire that about you. I think that was extraordinarily mature of anyone at any age.
Yeah.
And do you remember that story?
Yeah, and I remember getting advice from you, but here's the thing you're forgetting. The advice you gave me was right. So it's hard to argue with right. And I've always been a learner. I've always strived to learn. Now, remember, now you're talking to somebody who graduated from high school in trouble. I had a very solid 1.7, and I I had to go to the principal's office with my parents to get his permission to graduate because technically I did not pass. And I went in there, and I'll never forget. He's sitting across the desk, suit and tie on. Dad's on my right, mom's on my left, and he goes, "Mr. Sinclair," addressing me. uh, "Why should I graduate you?" And I just looked at him and said, "Because you don't want me around here for another year causing trouble." And I thought that was funny, and I kind of chuckled. My dad did not feel the same way. He did not, he did not see the humor in that comment. Anyhow, long story is I graduated. I was lucky enough. I went to college where I learned to read and I learned to love learning. So when you say that I'm kind of open to those things, really it's a very selfish reason, is because I want to get better. I want to learn people's different perspectives. And I think in my career, maybe I was 35, 40 when I finally figured it out that if you want to be successful, surround yourself with people that are better than you are. And that's a tough one. Owners can say that all day and all night, you know. But the truth is, you want to be successful, don't go out and hire a technician. Hire the best technician, even if it takes more time. Don't go out and have a manager that listens to what you say and is a yes person. Go out and find somebody that can manage better than you. I built my career on that, and I've been very, very fortunate to be surrounded by some incredible teams. Uh, I'd love to say, Todd, that my success is due to me. Truthfully, it's not. I wish it were. I wish I were that smart. But it's really because of the fact of my philosophy on leadership and my philosophy in business is surround yourself with people that are better than you. And the main goal of a leader is not profit and loss. It's not widgets or wadgets. The mark of a leader is creating other leaders. And if you can do that, you're going to have a very successful business, and you're going to go from 1.5 to 5 million before you know it, and then from 5 to 10, and then onward. That's what's required.
Agreed. Well, thanks. That sets up the early days, I think. Let's
Hmm.
move into the next section where we're going to talk about franchising because um, Lance has been in it his whole career. We've had many conversations about franchising, especially in today's world. Like, how does it mix with private equity? Does it add value? Does it reduce value? And so I want to jump into it. So
Absolutely. So, Lance, you called franchising the American dream. Why do you believe that?
I think, first of all, we're a capitalist society. Nothing wrong with that. I love this
Hmm.
country. And because of that, there's a strong emphasis on picking yourself up from your bootstraps. There's a strong emphasis on becoming your own man, and that kind of all fits into the whole concept of running your own business, and it's a very difficult thing to do. It is. I don't care if it's franchising or doing it independently. It's not for the faint of heart, and you look at business, and it's incredible how many failures there are every year. Franchising gets you the ability to start on third base. And what I mean by that is with systems in place. I mean, there's a lot of people listening to this show right now that are probably independent. They're doing well. They're doing good. Maybe they're doing great. Um, but the reality is that's not for everyone. Uh, Sometimes, like you said earlier, go out and join a group, and I'm in favor of that. I'm not here to sell franchising because frankly franchising isn't for everybody. But I tell you what, if you want to be an independent, there's a group for you. If you want to really focus on business skills, there's a group for you. If you want to develop your teams, there's a group for you. The nice thing about franchising is we provide direction in what I consider to be four areas. Number one, operations. That's from the minute you knock on the door until you put money in the bank. That's called the system. There's sales and marketing. Everybody wants, oh, Todd, I'm sure you can relate to this. Everybody wants that magic bullet in marketing.
Right.
They think
Hmm.
that's going to solve their problems. The truth is, as I look back on my career, the vast majority of stagnation, of not growing, is a direct result of the owner, the person that they see every morning in the mirror. They're usually their own obstacle.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And leadership is key. Sales and marketing is important, obviously, of course it is, uh, but it's not the wherewithal. Probably the most important thing is management. Management, by definition, is the people side of the business. Retention, training, uh, having fun, which is something my generation we never did at work, but with the new generations coming up, that's extremely important. And then of course financials, of which most people in the contracting world uh, do not have training, education, or background in financials. They have to learn it, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to say I can't read a profit loss statement. I get that. We've all been there. Uh, but you've got to master the financials. Can you imagine playing a football team and not having the basic fundamentals down? Blocking, tackling, what your position is. That financing is that it gives you a way to measure how you're doing, just like keeping score in a football game. Uh, it's a way of measuring yourself not only against yourself but others as well. And I think that's the key. I mean, um, the biggest challenge I see out there today, without a question of a doubt, is the ability to transition from manager to leader in order to scale the business.
Yeah.
I agree.
He's talking about that football example. And Lance, did you play football growing up?
No, no, I was a swimmer, oddly enough. I was a swimmer for years and years and years. Um, I was okay. I mean, I made state once, I remember in Michigan, but no, I was never the breakout. The Olympics were not a
Not on your
destination
radar.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. My I played football, and the first year was in the seventh grade, and I didn't play pee wee.
Hmm.
Um, and I was actually a big seventh grader. I just didn't grow after
Well,
that. So I ended up being small the rest of my life. But I remember that feeling of all the other kids have played pee wee and they played flag and they knew plays, and I didn't know anything. So without a knowledge of how the play was supposed to go, I just defaulted to aggression. I'm just going to be as aggressive off the ball as I could be, and it was okay. But years later, it's like, wow, it would have been a lot better had I
as you
actually
know,
known the
yeah.
play. But there is something for tenacity and not quitting.
Yeah.
Well, Lance, I want to talk a little bit about royalties because I know a lot of people when they hear royalties, especially when it comes to a franchise, they're going, why would I want to give this much off the top? Because they see that as some of them see it as unfair, frankly. They're like, why not you make money if I make money? If I don't have a good month and you're still taking royalties, that a lot of people can get really uptight about that. But you see royalties differently. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I'm always amazed by that observation. Why should I give you, in our industry, I think the royalty range is what, 6 to 9%. Um, what's the royalty at McDonald's? Do you know, Todd, off the top of your head? I want to say it's like 15%.
I was going to say 11, but it's probably
Yeah.
15.
My point is this: all franchises charge royalties. Now, if you take the position that you're going to pay royalties, that's a mistake because that's going to come off your bottom line. But if you take the position that it's going to be part of my business, you know how you sit down, hopefully every year, most people don't, but you sit down and you say, okay, here's our pricing, here's our cost of materials. We're going to calculate a certain percentage for windshield time. We've got overhead to cover. Well, you should have another line item in there, and that line item should be the royalty percentage, right? Now, I tell people that and they say, oh, well, then I'll be overpriced. Well, wait a second. You should be the most expensive in town. And I mean that sincerely. You should be the most expensive in town. You shouldn't be, if you want to be cheap, Charlie, we're certainly franchising is not the way to go. And I would suggest, even with your client base, Todd, that's probably not that kind of mindset is not going to work with you and your team. Um, Here's the challenge: if you're going to charge more, you've got to do more. You've got to give more. You've got to have, for example, in franchising, we have written guarantees that every customer gets a copy of. And not only are they written guarantees, but they tell you if we don't do the guarantee, they tell you what the consequence is. And this goes back to the SGI days, right? Why more people don't do that is beyond me. But my point is, you take that 6%, you make it part of your doing business, and you'll find that it really doesn't matter. I mean, we have people that pay royalties and still make 15 up to 20%. Um, so it's really an inconsequential charge. The only way you really get in trouble is if you don't account for it, and then it takes away from your profitability. So, you know, you can be successful in a franchise, you can be successful as an independent. But even if you're independent, go through your pricing every year. Make sure that you are priced correctly and then deliver beyond people's expectations. They won't care what they pay. I find it amazing, the American consumer, and I bet you guys are this way too. Um, when you bought something and it didn't work out, it was a bad deal, you probably remember to the penny what you paid. But think about this: when you bought something and you were extremely happy with it and you absolutely loved it, do you remember how much you paid? You probably remember the range. Oh, it was about blah, blah, blah. My point is that we tend to remember to the penny the bad experiences, but good experiences we chalk up to, yeah, but I'm satisfied. Why do people buy a Mercedes Benz when a Kia would do just as well? It goes from point A to point B. There's nothing wrong with either choice as long as you understand what you're getting, right? Now, is a Mercedes overpriced? I don't know. I own one and I love it. And I think I know what I paid for it some 4 years ago. But my point is I'm a satisfied customer. So it doesn't matter what I paid. But boy, I can tell you, I had some landscape work done here about 2 years ago, and it was just a disaster. I can tell you to the exact penny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So, what does healthy franchise support look like, Lance, without controlling everything?
You know, that is a really good question, because there's always this conflict between franchisee and franchisor, right? And people think, well, I don't want to be a franchise because then they'll take over my business. And that the facts simply do not support that. A franchise is independently owned and operated. And that's extremely important to understand in the relationship. Uh, but there's always that challenge. Um, and I think support versus control. We provide, just like many organizations do, we provide the tools to use. The difference between us and, say, an independent advisory group is that we do have some legal obligations in terms of marks, right? Logos, colors, some procedures, etc. But when it comes to operations, we provide numerous tools. Todd can attest to this. I think sometimes back in the SGI days and into franchising, I sometimes wonder if we didn't provide too many tools. You know what I mean? Because it's so overwhelming. But we provide the tools. On the marketplace, we provide programs to make the phone ring, but they don't all work for all people, all locations. That's a very tricky one, but better to have a marketing team behind you than to try to fend for yourself. When it comes to management, we provide tools for employees, training on how to interview, retention tactics, and financials. Of course, we provide a ton of education on that. But I think the most important thing is that we provide tools to help you continue to grow. Like, for example, on the finance side, do you realize the last time I had a math class in or out of work was, are you ready? I'm going to date myself now, 1973. I'm a junior in high school and I took Algebra 1. That is my financial background. It truly is. And I'm not alone. Most contractors, I think, I don't know if they even took Algebra 1. But my point is that I had to learn on my own, and I had to read books, and I had to figure it out. Um, One of the best books I think I ever read, Todd. I don't know, you probably are, you're smarter than I am, but I read a book called Financials for Dummies. Remember when that series came out? I'm going back to the 70s, but that's how I kind of learned finance. And, that's what a franchise or any of these other groups really provide is they provide the tools to help you expand your knowledge so that you can, in fact, implement programs. Now, the hardest part of all this, I think, and we haven't mentioned, but the hardest part is teaching leadership. That's a tough one. You can talk all day about it. You can sound really good. You can sound really intelligent. Oh my gosh, he knows leadership. But to actually learn it, study, embrace it, it's hard. But boy, once you do, there's no stopping that individual.
So this might tie in a little bit to my next question because you might have already answered it, but when someone picks up a franchise and it's not working, they don't understand it or they're not a right leader, what's the first thing that you actually see that breaks? You don't have to, please don't name a company, but I want you to think about a company that didn't make it. It was just, and there's probably more than one, right? They were not successful. So what was the first thing that usually is the indication that it's breaking?
You know, I'll be interested to see if you agree with this. But one of the ways you can determine if someone is going to make it or not is how they answer the phone. I know this
Mm,
sounds very simplistic,
that's
but
good. That's a good
if
answer.
how many times do I call a location and I hear, "Thank you for calling 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning. This is Beth. How can I help you?" Which is probably the most boring way to answer the phone I can think of. You want to separate yourself from everybody else. You've got to do it with the very first impression. We get a lot of people that laugh at us when we tell people to answer the phone. For example, thank you for calling 1 hour. My name is Lance. How can I save you time today? And they're like, well, why would you say that? And you say that because one, you want to push your marketing message right up front. I'm going to help you save time. And two, you want to be completely different. Now, as many years as I've done this, very few times does the customer stop and say, well, what do you mean save me time? I wish they all would, because once a customer asks a question, in a sense, they're giving you permission to sell.
Hmm.
Now, if I start off the conversation by saying, thank you for calling, uh, we're going to save you time today, this is how we're going to do it, A, B, C, D, E, I'm selling. The customer's not interested. They've got a problem. They want something solved. But I think, oddly enough, and I'd love to get your perspective, but if you can't, if you can't master how to answer the phone right up front, you've probably got a location that's broken.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go into something completely different, but I think it's a great answer. I
Like
wasn't
what?
exactly sure.
What do you think I'd go into?
I thought you were going to say something like because of leadership, when you go into a franchise, you see an outflow of people from the team, people start quitting, or maybe the leader starts complaining and they can't be satisfied. But I think the answer that you gave is actually a really great answer because it's probably the easiest thing to implement first.
Mhm.
And yet it's also probably still to this day the most undertrained thing people do, which is invest in their CSRs,
Yes.
which blows me away. It's
Yeah.
like it's just step number one.
The
So
the most important position in the organization, I believe, is the CSR. And I know there's a lot of technicians and operation managers rolling their eyes right now, but without an effective CSR team, you're not going to be able to scale your business.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
the reason I always say call up a location before you go visit it is to find out how they're answering the phone. You know, um, because I think that that's symptomatic of everything else. Just like I used to walk into locations and I would look around and you see a place with trash cans that are absolutely full, desks that have bunches of paper on it. Oh my gosh, people, there's a school of thought out there that if I'm a manager and if I don't have tons of paperwork on my desk and if I don't have all sorts of files out, I'm not important. Um, to me, it's real simple. Dude, you're disorganized. You know, if you ever saw, here I am running $1 billion business. Do you realize that I don't have a single paper file? Not one. If you went to my desk, ask anybody. My office is spotless. There's nothing out laying around. Um, and I pride myself on being organized. And I pride myself on being, uh, what's the Scottish word? Dolt, meaning clean and neat. Uh, and that's how I would want people to run their businesses. I mean, you know, you walk in. You mentioned something interesting there, Todd. Retention. That's the one metric that most of us in this industry do not measure. We don't measure it. We complain about it. People don't want to work. People quit. People leave for 10 cents an hour. Yet, show me a KPI board on Service Titan or any platform that tracks retention and retracts turnover. It doesn't exist.
It's interesting, Lance. When you think of franchising generally, not specifically in the home trade, Chick-fil-A comes to mind, right?
Yeah.
And have you ever been in a dirty Chick-fil-A? I have never been in a dirty Chick-fil-A ever.
Never.
The bathrooms are always spotless. There's a gas station in Texas here called Buc-ee's, and they built their success on having clean restrooms. I actually saw a guy polishing the gas pumps in the Chick-fil-A once. And so that image, like that thing you see when you walk into a business, I completely agree with you. I've gone to see, shops and there's stuff all over the place and the driveway's dirty and the trucks are dirty. They're never washed. And you just go, this business is not being managed. We've gone to a regular gas station and the bathrooms are filthy. And I'm like, this location is not being managed. So I think it's a very good indicator. I totally agree with you. It's a very good indicator of the state of the business if the cleanliness is not being kept up.
I love it.
So Lance, have you any plans for retirement, or are you just
Oh,
see?
I have declared that I am not going to do a thing for 60 days.
Right.
I've had some interesting phone calls. Very humbled that people have reached out and want to pay me to come out and see their place, or consider doing this or that. But no, I didn't quit. I wasn't fired. I retired, and
Hmm.
retirement, in my definition, is not working. So,
Right. Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I have no plans. I have no aspirations. I have no clue. Now, at some point, I'm probably going to get bored. Um, I don't know when, uh, but I'll deal with it. I mean, I've got so much going on right now. I have to have a calendar. I didn't realize that after I retired, I would have to have such a need for a calendar to schedule projects, meetings, appointments, things I want to do. So it's been I've loved it. I mean, it's only been, I mean, what's the date today? Today, see, I don't even keep up with time. It's only been 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But boy, I tell you what, if this is retirement, I am going to have the time of my life. I've got some trips planned. I bought myself a car, um, and I plan on seeing the kids throughout the summer. But really, no, I really don't have any
No
long
definite
term.
plans. Yeah, yeah. That's the right way to do it, Lance, I think. I think we go so hard during our career. We're just go, 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 go. It's nice to stop and it's nice to stop up and it's nice to wake up and wonder what day it is, actually, where, you
Yeah.
know, it's not a meeting morning, right? And it's
Right.
not, you have nothing in particular going on. You just figure out what day it is when you wake up. So it's cool.
Yeah, I think my favorite part about retirement. Oh, this is terrible. I'm staying up till 10 o'clock, and I'm sleeping in until 8. I made a rule
You
for
get some
myself.
sleep.
I don't want to be in bed all day, so I have to get up by 8. My dog seems to have latched onto that because at 7:55, she's licking my face for breakfast. But that's probably been my favorite thing is staying up at night, and because I would go to bed so early when I was working. But then again, I'm the kind of guy that I'm at the office at 6. I like to
Right,
be there
right.
before everybody else so I can get my act together. Um, but yeah, that's probably been my favorite thing so far.
Well, good
But
for you.
Yeah, we'll probably keep that in. What were your hours that you were working? You got there at 6. When did you leave?
well, okay, I'm in Phoenix now, so I got to defend myself. I'd get in at 6, and we closed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, before everybody jumps on and goes, well, that's a lazy life, understand we're in Phoenix. Half the year, 3 o'clock is 6 out east. So it's almost impossible to get hold of anybody, after about 3 o'clock Phoenix time. Now, when I say I would leave the office, that doesn't mean I was done working. I would often leave the office, come home, go out back by the pool, and make phone calls. So, it would not be uncommon for me to be on the phone for about an hour every day after work. Uh, but, to me, there were no office hours. I mean, if you're going to be in a position, in the positions that I was lucky enough to get, it's 24/7. I mean, you're thinking about it all the time. Just like a new owner, or even an owner that's been in business for 10 years and they're doing 1.5 million, you're consumed with business
Right.
24/7. Um,
Well, and I think that's a trait that you have, Alan, and
Hmm.
that's a trait that you have, Lance. And I have it too, but psychologically it feels different to me.
Hmm.
Like my normal work hours, I get up at 6, and I do a few things, and I exercise, and I come to the office, and I'll usually leave here at like 4 or 5. And then I may do a few things afterwards, but in my brain, it doesn't feel like work. If you ask my wife and my kids, they're like, "You work all the time."
Hmm.
It doesn't usually feel like work, but I felt like
right.
if I were doing it not for the growth of the business that I own, it might feel like work. I'm not
Yeah,
I'm not sure it
yeah,
wouldn't feel like work to me
yeah.
anymore at that point.
I do think, Todd, that you're a different generation than Lance
Yeah.
and I, and your generation figured out the work-life balance a little bit better than we did. Like
Yeah.
we and our parents were like, you go, 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 and you come home and you rest, and then you go, go, go again. Whereas I think you figured out like spending time with your kids
Right.
way better than I did when I was in the trenches, right? Like I'm just going to have to miss that because I'm working or there's
Mm,
something more important going on. But you got your priorities, I think, more squared away. And that's more typical of the generation below myself and Lance in terms of age, right? You place a little bit more priority than that. I always thought my job was to
yeah.
provide and ahead of spending time with
Right.
family. You figured out how to do both, which is fantastic.
It's interesting that like the kids that are coming up now, they don't seem to have a middle ground. they seem to be either it's all about lifestyle and I don't even want to work, or it's they're back to like earlier generations where it's like they just pour in 100 hours and they just want to work and they don't even want to have a family,
Right.
and because they think families slow things
Well,
down.
I think when you throw COVID into the mix, Todd, that changed the workplace
Yeah,
forever. I
it
think.
did.
Yeah, you know.
Well, let's jump into segment number 4 here.
All right, let's go. You said your biggest unfinished project was measuring training ROI. What did you want to build, Lance?
Well, I always thought training is critically important, especially, you're talking about the generational differences. Um, think about it, Alan. When we grew up, you were measured by how many hours you spent at work, not your performance. It was all about time. And that has dramatically changed. In addition to that, training, learning more is so important in the trades. I mean, we're one of the few businesses where the more you know, the more you can earn. Do you know what I mean? It makes a direct impact. And I think I've done well in training. Um, I'm not original. In fact, I absolutely admit that every idea and everything is probably from someone else. You know, I'm okay with that. Um, I think my skill set is I'm able to take that information and communicate it effectively to the audience. But the one thing, as I look back on my career, and there's more than one, but if there's one thing I wish I would have done better, and I tried doing it once, and that is getting a return on investment in the training world because it's really difficult. Everybody, top to bottom in an organization. I mean, I've met the board of directors from England, and I've met somebody starting out a business and they did 500,000 their first year. Everybody admits training is important, but the reality of actually training uh, seems to fall back on the wayside. And part of the reason is I don't think people truly grasp the difference it can make. So, for example, to give you an example of this, let's go back to when I was training, say, I don't care, it could be call takers, technicians, salespeople. Let's just say technicians. Let's start there. What are the KPIs? Oh, most of us look at what? Average ticket, lead setting, those kind of variables, right? And we can measure those. We know we can. The challenge is that how do you do that in a training situation? I think ideally what I tried to do once, and frankly it didn't work, but I want to share the story anyhow, um, is we tried to get those numbers, those KPIs for every student before class. You'd be surprised how incredibly difficult that was because most of the owners that we spoke to could not tell us. Anyhow, we wanted to get ideally, let's just take average ticket. Somebody comes in, a heating and air guy, average ticket 300. If they go through the training, can we see what kind of change that was? Perhaps at 30 days and 90 days. That was what the plan was. So we would try to get those numbers. That was, again, extremely difficult. Now I'm going way back like 10 years. We were on a different software program. It could not give us the data we wanted. We had to get hold of owners to get that data. And it became so cumbersome, uh, we couldn't get our hands around it. That's one regret. I wish I would have been much better at that. I mean, imagine that. I mean, what a nice gold star to put on my shirt, right? The guy that figured out how to do ROI on training. I would have loved that title. I still think it can be done. I think with today's uh, software programs, it can be done now. Um, I'm not trying to promote anybody, Todd, here. But we recently made the switch to Service Titan. And with Service Titan, we're able to get those numbers before and after. So now we have a tool that we can actually do it without having to call up that manager and say, hey, Johnny's coming to class. What's his average ticket? I mean, think about that. Think of the power of putting together those kind of numbers when it comes to training. I believe there's a return on investment. I do. My challenge is I can't numerically through metrics prove it.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
absolutely convinced. Uh, I'm convinced by how many people in sales in the industry that I've had the opportunity to speak with and to train and hear them come back with their stories.
Hmm.
You remember, Todd, when 1 million was like the impossible number to hit?
Absolutely.
Now,
Mhm.
if you're doing $1 million, you're failing.
Probably fired.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
come on, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the last average I looked at it was about 1.7. Um,
Yeah, well, that $1 million standard was built upon a $4,500 replacement ticket.
Yeah.
yes, yes, yeah, that's true. That's true. In fact, if you think about it, before COVID, that number was about 8.
Yeah, the original one when we came up with it, and I'm pretty proud of this. I came up with the name the $1 million Factory. Did you know that, Lance? That was
No, I
my
didn't.
creation.
No, I've
Yeah, yeah,
always liked that name. Always.
yeah. Me too. I wish I would have come up with it later when it could have been mine to use.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's for the greater
Are you
good, Todd.
are
It's
y'all
for the
still
greater
using
good.
a variation of that name?
Well, now it's called the $2 million Factory. And to be honest with you, with the numbers, it's probably time to change it again.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Three
here's
million dollar
something
factory.
I want to give both of you guys something that I've thought about a lot lately, and I'm going, huh, this is interesting. Because you're saying measuring KPIs, and I wanted to know. Thank you for sharing that. And I just wrote down short term thinking. And the reason why I wrote down short term thinking is that I think a lot of the problems with business owners when it comes to training is that they are short term thinking. They're thinking, I sent someone to a class, why aren't they doing 3 million now? Or
Right.
et cetera, right? And I think the real measurement for people in the beginning actually isn't KPI. I think it's something that's actually probably even a little harder to measure, but it's something that has to be identified through leadership. It's behaviors. And here's the reason why I say that. To me, you can have a little bit of a spike in a training class, but if you want the ultimate long-term success, it's going to be more about behaviors. It isn't going to be about the one time that you went to training. It's about the many times that you went to training. And it's like, what is the one behavior that's changed? I really like the parallels between what we do physically and what we do mentally because the mind and the body are one. They're not separate, right?
Hmm.
And if someone were to come and say, "Hey, Todd, I want you to help me get, fit," I'd say, "Okay, great. Let's actually make it more about behavior." Well, I really want to be able to bench this much weight and squat this much weight. I'm like, "Yeah, that's great." And we can get there. But what if we can just make the first behavior that you show up to the gym 4 times a week for 30 minutes? If we just track that behavior, the other things will happen and they will happen in amazing ways that won't break you. So I have come to a place where I really believe that the most important thing that we can do in training is ask the question, what are the behaviors that we're trying to change?
When Lance was speaking about measuring ROI, Todd, what was going through my mind was I have personally seen a results bump, but then it falls off,
Yes.
It
right?
falls off. Yeah.
And the reason for that is, I believe, is the technician is not being managed when he gets back to home base because we've sent guys to St. Louis. They come back, they set the world on fire for 3 weeks, and then they go back to about where they were.
Yeah.
So I think you have two choices. Either you have to really manage that technician and hold them accountable to the new behaviors he learned at training, or you need to have ongoing training week after week after week after week and not just send them off on a jolly to St. Louis or whatever the training might be, right? So
100%.
I think owners out there, the message has to be, look, training is not just important, it's essential, but the follow up to the training is just as important, I think. Yeah.
I think, I
100%.
think, Alan, I might argue it's more important. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
a manager is going to send somebody to training and check it off the list. And then when they
Right.
get back, a manager is going to say, "How was the training?" And the guy's going to go, "It was great." And the manager's going to go, "Okay, I succeeded. Time to move on."
Yeah.
Yeah.
A leader is going to send people to training, and they're also going to send the supervisors and the managers that are responsible to holding those people accountable. They go to the training. It
Right.
amazes me how many people went to training once 8 years ago and they haven't gone back since, and they own a business. Um, Training is a constant thing. But Alan, I think what you said was so important. When I look at the most successful businesses, people always ask me, "What's the secret?" And number one, there is no secret. They tend to do the basics, like answering the phone, but they also train on a regular basis. I know a location that every morning, and a lot of people might disagree with this, they have the technicians drive in every morning. And a lot of people are like, "Well, that's such a far drive." Hey, I can't decide where people live. If you want the job, you have to be here every morning. They'll go through a quick training. It could be 15 minutes, it could be an hour. See, that's the important thing. It doesn't matter the length of time, but every day they try to highlight one thing, one part of the system, and talk about it. So it's continuous. I know a location where every week they do role plays, and you know how people hate, role
Yeah.
playing, but they do it every week. They're also a $20 million business, and I've seen them grow basically from two trucks. Um, the places that are successful reinforce that training on a regular basis. And here's the challenge. If your listeners are out there going, "Well, I don't have the time. I can't go to a training session for 2, 3 days. I've got a business to run." Man, that is so lopsided thinking, because if you went to the training and really mastered the system and you could teach it as a follow up, you would have less to manage. You'd be taking vacations. you know, it, it's you've got to reinforce that training, and that's something that I can't do. That's something that your organization can't do. That is directly the responsibility of the individuals.
Yep.
um,
Amen.
here's a real quick tidbit that might help. Next time your technician, electrician, or plumber goes to training and they come back at your next meeting, I hope you're having meetings with your team on a regular basis. Have the technicians, and tell him ahead of time so he can prepare. Have him give a 15-minute presentation on the three most important things I learned that I'm going to start doing differently.
I
Have
like
him
it.
report back to the team on what they got out of the training. You'll find out real quick who paid attention and who didn't. In fact, before I sent them to any training, I would tell them that they're going to have this assignment. So there's not trying to put anybody on the spot, not trying to embarrass anybody. I would like to have a little testimonial on what you learn. I just spent thousands of dollars for you to go to training. Most people don't understand that it's an expense. I want to know what my return on investment is. What'd you learn? And what can you help the guys with to help them get better? I think, Alan, that follow up is a key to success.
All right, listeners. Lance has been giving us an absolute masterclass. And what we want to do right now is we want to give you 4 moves that on Monday morning you can go back and you can implement. All right. Here's move number 1. It's call taking standard. Write the call taking standard down, what you will say and what you will not say. Go and score 10 calls from the previous week as a leadership team and coach to the standard, not your feelings.
And move number 2, the 3 options discipline, written and trained. So write the 3 options standard, good, better, best. Train it weekly for 4 weeks. Inspect in the field. That's ride-alongs, Q&As, and ticket notes.
Absolutely. Move number 3 is training follow-up plus your scoreboard. Measure your baselines if you can before you start training. And then once you train, track your tickets, your close rate, callbacks, whatever matters. Don't forget behaviors. remeasure at 30 days and at 90 days, and do manager coaching that is required for training, whether that's daily, weekly enforcements. Have them talk about it in the hallways, but reinforce what was trained.
And then move number 4, and Lance talked a lot about leadership, is develop a leader. Pick one person to grow, give them ownership of one system, call options, training, follow up, whatever it might be, and then coach weekly, numbers and behavior.
All right, wonderful. Now, listeners, we're going to move into our rapid fire segment.
All right. So, what is the most important basic owners ignore, Lance?
Underestimating trust. I know that may not be what you expect, but you've got to have trust as a leader with your team, with your customers, with your vendors. If you can establish trust, you're way ahead of the game.
Totally agree. If you could fix one part of customer experience first, what would it be?
I think the most important thing in the customer experience is not fixing the problem. That's a byproduct of what we do. The most important thing is to develop a relationship. When you walk into the house, look around. Is there a picture? Are there some momentums? Is there some art? Is something that you can relate to begin to build a relationship? Business is all about relationships.
Totally agree. What's one KPI you'd put on the wall today, Lance?
Retention, not turnover, retention. Retention is the measurement of how long people stay with you. I think that is critical in our business. I think we miss the boat big time on that, myself included. Retention, that's the most important thing.
What's one belief about growth that you would kill?
Oh, that growth has to be done through marketing, that growth has to be, you have to spend money for growth. The reality is, master the fundamentals. Michael Jordan put it very well when he said the most important thing, skill set to have is the fundamentals, which is why he would practice the same moves over and over and over again for an hour after practice was done. It's the fundamentals that will get you ahead, not the next quick fix.
Is that the standard that everyone should write down this week? Or is there another one that you have?
I think I think that's a good one. I'm sorry. I'm really overthinking this probably, but I think the most important thing for your listeners to do, these are great action plans, but I think the most important thing to do is develop other people, develop yourself. When was the last time you, as an owner, if you're listening to this, have gone to a training session? Maybe you've hired Todd to do things for your location, but what about yourself? What have you done for yourself? I think that is so important. Uh, Self-development is critical in any business. And I don't know that I would just pick one, Alan, with all due respect. I would try to figure out how I can develop every single person at their own chosen speed and time.
Got it. Well, Lance, we want to say thank you. I think that you have been just an amazing guest. I got one final question for you, which is, what does doing it the right way when cash is really tight look like to you?
I think cash is important. Believe me, I am a true capitalist. I love the word profit, Todd. Probably one of my favorite words in the English language, profit. But at the end of the day, you you have to out hustle your competition. You have to out hustle the competition, man. If you get a call at 7 o'clock at night, you just finished dinner, you want to sit down and watch the ball game, and a customer has an issue and they need you out there, uh, you want to be successful, go out there, service that customer. I've got a guy here locally in town. He was running calls at 1 o'clock at night, and he's an owner. Now, he's not doing it now because he's built his business up after a year, but you have to out hustle the competition. That's what you signed up for. That's what you need to do. Believe me, the days of sitting on a beach with concierge service are coming. That's down the road. But it doesn't come in 1 year. You
No
got to
question.
work for it. But boy, I tell you this, when it does come, it's a blast.
That's awesome. Well, Lance, congratulations on all your success in your retirement. I'm thankful that we've maintained our relationship over these 20 years. Uh, I look forward to our future together. Alan, you got anything you want to say there?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, Lance. You know, I do think one thing that owners neglect to do is work on themselves.
Yep.
And as you were talking about sharpening the axe, it reminded me of a quote from Abraham Lincoln. He said, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 5 hours sharpening the axe. And so I think
Yep.
great message to all the owners out there is sharpen that axe, okay? Let's make sure you're working on yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
thank you, Lance,
Todd
so
and
much.
Alan, thank you so much for this invitation. I really appreciate it. And think about this, Todd. Go way back to, I'm not going to get the year right. 2004 or 5. You meet this old fart in a hotel room downtown St. Louis, Drury Inn to be exact. And you say, hey, how would you like to become a trainer? I don't know if you realize the impact that that has had on my career. For example, people have often come up to me and said, how'd you become president? I mean, weren't you a trainer? And I know a lot of people don't equate the two. But the reality is, without that training background, without that passion, without that experience, there's no way I could have been a successful president. So I'm going to take a moment here, kind of embarrass you. I hope this makes it on the show. But thank you, Todd, because that decision to take me on your team literally changed the entire direction of my life. It really did. I think we maybe both underestimated that, but it really did. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lance. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great job, Lance. Well done, Lance. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and taffy puller Todd Liles.